you know what disconnects us from other people quicker than lightning, whether it's your child or your partner? It's when you don't feel listened to. So, rage, anger, frustration, all of that comes from a place of when somebody is unable to connect to you, somebody who you love, somebody who you think loves you, and they're unable to connect to you and they don't listen to you and allow you to express your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions. This is the biggest frustration caused in the human race today. And I remember statistics quite a few years ago saying that the biggest cause of teenagers committing suicide is because they never felt listened to. Now, the thing with listening is that it really is sometimes a skill. And the way to get past this not feeling like it's an irritation to listen to somebody else is to realize that it's for their benefit. Because I don't know if you've experienced this, I have certainly experienced this, is that when you try to talk or express yourself or express your feelings or your thoughts, whatever it is, and somebody else interrupts you and then they turn the conversation around and they turn it to them. And how that then makes you feel is, well, what I have to say is not important. I'm not important because this person has just flipped the conversation and made it about themselves. The other frustrating thing for a person when they're trying to express themselves is if the other person gets angry or irritated and well, I don't want to hear about your emotions, I don't want to hear about your feelings, and they actually have an emotional reaction because once again they're then making it about and made it about themselves and not actually stopping and paying attention and listening to you. The other thing that comes into play is if somebody's listening, but they're listening with judgment. And so judgment in terms of then saying, well, you shouldn't feel that way. It's not okay to say that. They're judging what you are saying. So listening, as I said, is a skill. And the easiest way to learn to become a listener is to realize that you are just being a sounding board. Now, I know that specifically when it comes to men and women like to express themselves and they like to talk and they like to get it all out there. And most times they solve their own problems because they just actually saying that aloud, that they're feeling inside, they're getting it out there. And so they're hearing themselves and then they solve a problem. But what men generally tend to do, because they are problem solvers by nature, they jump in and they want to tell you how to feel, what to do, what not to do, instead of actually just listening. And the one way that you can really get past that is actually to say to a man, if you're talking to them, would you mind just listening? Would you just be my sounding board for a couple of minutes? And if I need your help or I need your opinion, I'll ask you for it. So that's one way to do it as a woman. And then as a man, to listen then is to just to allow that, agree to that and say, okay, yeah, no problem. And just focus on what the person is saying because they're talking from their heart. They're talking about them. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about how am I going to solve this? Oh my gosh, is this a criticism? What am I going to do about that? Just allow that person to express himself. So imagine it's the same as where you're watching a program on telly, right? A lot of people don't talk back to the TV. I know I do, but most people don't. You don't talk back. You just listen. You take it in because you're interested. Or if you're listening to a podcast, you're just listening. So take your own personal thoughts, feelings, and judgments out of it and just listen to that person. And once they're done, you can say, do you feel better? Would you like my advice? Would you like me to give you a tip or are you okay? And 9 times out of 10, a woman will say, no, that's fine. Thank you so much for listening. Now, when it comes to listening, in terms of when you're listening to children, allow them as well to just express themselves, their frustration. Don't tell them what they should or shouldn't do. And I think sometimes we make so many mistakes with children when we say, you shouldn't say that. That's not nice to say. When a child says, I hate that, or I don't like that, or they express their frustration, they express their anger, parents often, it's almost like they want to save them from feeling those emotions or save them from feeling uncomfortable, or they want their child to be happy again. So they want to remove it. So they say to them, don't feel that way. But what you're doing when you do that is you're invalidating your child. And you also then making them want to suppress those feelings, because then they feel abnormal. They feel like, wow, okay, I'm not supposed to feel this way. I'm not supposed to express myself. There must be something wrong with me. Because remember that children tend to make everything about themselves because they don't understand yet what is going on. They don't have a rational brain. Their rational brain only kicks in when they're 24, 25. So when you shut a child down and you don't allow them to express themselves, that's what happens. Everything goes internal, and then they start thinking and they make it about themselves, that there's something wrong with them. They start criticizing themselves. And then also this frustration that they have felt, or the sadness, or whatever it is, it builds up and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and eventually it turns into severe anger and rage. And sometimes that's the reason that if a child is not allowed to express himself and be themselves, that eventually they're like, you know, what is the point of living? What is the point of being here? So there can be dire things that can happen if you don't allow a child to express their feelings, their emotions, their thoughts, and whatever's going on. And also make sure that you don't take it personally. Don't ever take anything personally that anybody says to you, not your child, not your spouse, because it's not about you. It's never, ever about you. It's what is going on with them. And that's why it's so important to listen to our children when they speak to us, because it can tell you so much about what's going on with them, trauma that they're possibly going through, anger that they're going through, anxiety that they're going through. But if we allow our own thoughts and our own judgments and our own preconceived ideas to get in the way, we don't hear it. And then we can't always tell what the warning signs are. We can't tell what's going on with our child. And then something bad happens, and then we're in denial and we go, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. You can see it coming. I can see it coming. We can see it coming. If we allow ourselves to just sit and listen without any kind of judgment and preconceived ideas. I cannot express my passion enough about this, that, you know, two of the most fundamentally important things about being a parent, being a good friend, being a good partner, being a good spouse, being a good whatever, any relationship, is about becoming a good listener and remembering it's not about you. You are giving the speaker a gift because you're allowing them to express everything that's going on within them. So becoming a good listener, and also developing empathy, because remember, empathy is about, when you really want to understand somebody, it's about imagining yourself in that person's shoes, imagining what is going on. Now, I'm just going to put a caveat here. I'm not saying don't become too empathetic, because when we develop our empathy too much, we're at risk of being getting empathy fatigue. So it's about having that balance of empathy and kindness, showing kindness because this person is going through something and they're feeling all those feelings and having all those thoughts, but then also just looking at it and going, hang on, how would I feel if this was me? That's where empathy comes in. How would I feel if I was in their shoes? And how would I want somebody to treat me if this was me? Would I want them to just give me a hug, or just to listen, or to be kind? So I hope that makes sense to you. But as I said, listening is the most beautiful, incredible skill that you can ever develop in yourself. And also, when you're listening, make sure you're listening for feeling words, listening for emotions, because those are the telltale signs of what's going on with that other person, and specifically what's going on with your child. And I can tell you this as well, is that nothing connects you more with other people when you are a good listener and you allow them to express themselves in the way they need to express themselves. As long as they're not hurting you by physically expressing their pain by hitting you, or they're not hurting themselves, but allow the people in your life to just express themselves and get rid of all those horrible feelings of frustration, sadness, and whatever else they are feeling. Right. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.